sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward.
Welcome and hello, everybody.
How do you stand out? My name is Andrew. What you need to do is be that person that's different and it's bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes.
I want to talk to you a little bit about dealing with stress. Something that we all deal with. Some deal with a little bit more than others. Some struggle to deal with, and all of us, I would say, we have days and moments where we deal with it great, where everything works, and others where it seems like we blow up or we shut down. We let something get to us, leave us super agitated, and then other times it leaves us depressed. Stress can have an interesting, today has been nuclear. For you guys, has it been? Yeah, so dealing with, there's always fun with attorneys for different matters, whether it's business or, family matters, personal stuff. So there's that. There's things where maybe you've got kids that are sick or ill or not doing well at school or not paying attention to you. Currently, along with some of that stuff, there's dogs are sick. A loved one may be sick. Right? You might be frustrated with your business. You might be frustrated with yourself. You might be frustrated with how you're eating or how your body's not responding the way you want it to, even though you started eating better or you started working out. And what's going on? And why am I stressed? And why couldn't I sleep last night? Why was I up late? Or why did I get up early? Or why did this happen? Or why did that happen? Stress plays all sorts of crazy things, with us physically, mentally, emotionally. And so I just wanted to kind of chat a little bit about it and see kind of what you guys deal with. One of the first ways to recognize when you've got that, how often are you saying some of these things? And I want you to pay attention to them, pay attention to your language throughout the day. We talk a lot about, the words that you say to yourself, especially when, that inner dialogue, the things that you say when no one else is listening. If you say things like, man, I'm just so stressed out. I just can't take this stress anymore. Like, I can't take it. Just one more minute, I'm going to explode. I'm going to have to walk out. I'm going to whatever, this job is killing me. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can learn this. I'm just never going to have enough time. I'm never going to have enough money. I'm always going to be stressed. Why can't I just, right? There's all sorts of things that we can enter in there. Okay. I could really use a drink. I've heard that plenty. I don't drink. So I say things like, man, I could really just use some tacos. I could use some quiet time. I could use some me time. I need to be alone for a while. I need to just get away. Look, I'm just not cut out for this. This is too much. Stress plays havoc. It wreaks havoc on us. Here's some symptoms of stress. I'm going to share these slides so you guys can look. But look, muscle tension, stomach problems, skin irritation. I had a call recently speaking with someone where I could see like hives breaking out as we were talking about a subject that was difficult for them to talk about. Like the level of stress just conversing about that topic. And look, I've had topics like that in my life where, I don't get the skin irritations, but trouble concentrating might be there, the anxiety, right? Heart palpitations, stomach not wanting to eat, eating too much, fatigue, you're tired. You got too much energy, you're bouncing around. I mean, everybody reacts a little bit differently. So this is where getting to know yourself really becomes important. Part of this is starting to recognize when it's causing you a problem. Okay, so you have to pay attention. What's going on, right? I'm starting to feel tired, or I'm staying awake, or what's going on in my life. Instead of working through and focusing on the problems, trying to identify what's happening can be helpful. So, pay attention to tense muscles and overtiredness and all that kind of stuff. Now, identifying the causes. When it comes to the underlying causes, so we've got sorting things out. We've got those that can be solved with a practical solution, those that are going to get better over time, and those that you can't do anything about. How many of you guys struggle with, here, I got some comments, frustrated with the low paid job? Yep. So feelings in the pit of my stomach today. Normally I can process in a healthy manner, but now I know why people get ulcers. Yeah. When I'm super stressed, I eat less, just breathing deep just to calm down. So I'm going to talk about some things that you can do. Talking about how to deal with stress, I think is one of those things where it's so much easier to talk about than to actually do. Right? There's a reason that there's all of those jokes about, when your partner, your significant other is upset, and you just calm down, just relax, okay? Just chill. It's not that big a deal. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay, because that always goes well. And we try and tell ourselves the same thing. Just look, it's gonna be fine. You'll deal with it. It's hard for me to get riled up. I have learned over the years, and this is kind of a blessing and a curse. I've learned to compartmentalize things, and so I can deal with certain things at a certain time. The effect of that, though, is that a lot of times one of the elements that I compartmentalize, I don't deal with, and it just stays in that compartment until the collector comes due. And you just sit there and you go, shit, now it's all right now. I got to deal with everything. And you just blow up, right? Skin is getting hot. You get the butterflies in your stomach, and it's not because you see someone that's really cute and you got the crush on them. You're just freaking out. So we're talking about how to deal with things and how to identify and how to work through some of the stress. And Aga's talking about, breathing deep, and absolutely, earlier today, because I'm going to deal with something that's gonna, I know is gonna leave me frustrated. It's got me anxious, right? There's stress there. And ladies and gentlemen, when I talk about these topics, please know I'm along this journey with you. Sometimes I'm sharing because somebody asked about it. Sometimes it's just like, hell, let's see what Andrew's going through today, shall we? So stress is one of those elements. Now, identify what you can deal with, identify something that, with a practical solution, identify something that is going to take care of itself over time, and then identifying something that you have no control over. Let's look at the last one first. How many of you guys over the course of the last 2 years felt, in one way or another, stress over something you had absolutely no control over? If every single one of you didn't raise your hands, you're lying to yourselves. Between the pandemic, the politics, a friend getting sick, a family member getting sick. Do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic? I don't know about you guys, but do you remember coming home from the grocery store with the masks, and you take off your gloves, and then you put on different gloves, and then you take out like bleach wipes to wipe down everything? Right? I'm wiping down the chips bag. I'm wiping down the outside, the plastic of the paper towels. I'm making sure that I take the plastic bags from the grocery store and I put them into a different plastic bag, and I tie them off and I put them outside and take and recycle. And then we say, well, we're going to be, conscientious, and we start taking our own bags to the store. And so we started doing that. And then as soon as they were done, they had to go straight into the wash every single time. You get home and you change out of your clothes and you take a shower because, this virus is going to, your skin's going to start falling off at any moment, right? We didn't have any control over any of that. I don't have any control over whether it was created in a lab or it was created by this, or this person traveled or this person did not. I don't have any control over it. And yet we're sitting here. And then we stress out over what the politicians are doing. And then we stress out over local politicians. And we stress out over on and on and on. And then, I apologize for all of you living outside of the United States that had to deal with the election here in the United States for 18 months leading up to it as well. The nonsense and everybody talking about it, or some of you guys dealing with it in your own country, your own locations. And then you're trying to deal with, for me, one of the best outlets for stress has always been the gym. That was my therapist, right? After my divorce, that was my therapist for a while till I realized I needed a real therapist. And then I started going to a real therapist, but then, getting on antidepressants and realizing I didn't want to be on antidepressants. So I went back to the gym while going through therapy. So the two of them combined did amazing things for me. And now all of a sudden I can't go to the gym. I'm going, for crying out loud, all of these access points I have as a stress relief. And even, at the beginning, they're telling you can't even leave the house. Don't go outside because that vitamin D and fresh air, especially when you're away from everybody, that can be dangerous. I mean, come on. So getting stressed over things that we have no control over. It starts with recognition, okay, and being aware. All the time when we talk about relationships, where does, in order to build the best relationships, we talked about this over the course of last week, the best relationships start with building a great relationship with yourself, loving yourself, being grateful for yourself, right? That's where it starts. A healthy business approach starts with what? Working on you, right? Stress begins with recognizing how your mind and body are responding to certain situations. And if it's a situation that ultimately you got no control over. I got no control over the Freedom Convoy in Canada. I got no control over what's happening in DC. I got nothing to do with what's happening in Australia. I don't have anything to do with whether or not my mom responds to this or that, and medication, etc. I'm sitting here. I can control my life. So I make sure I focus on what I am grateful for and what I can deal with. And then we get into the other two. So types of stressors, you're going to have one that can be solved with a practical solution, or one that will eventually work itself out, where you may or may not have control or indirect influence on it, but it's not going to resolve itself right away. Those are two things I want to chat about, but let me kind of check on some of these comments here. So, OCD before it was cool, even now with prices, everything going up. Yeah, inflation right now, it's crazy. So limited supply of the toilet paper. Why zebras don't get ulcers. Bruce will have to check that out. Drop that book into the Skype chat. Stress is all about perceptions that are fear-based. Absolutely. Go straight to the fear once I calm down and wake up. Questioning the thoughts diffuses the anxiety, and I'm in a position to deal with things as they are. It's interesting. I've been in business and training and sales and other things for a long time now. I've heard a number of different people talk about fear, and they talk about has anybody heard the false evidence appearing real, something like that? Has anyone heard that term? And I think it's just bullshit. Honestly, I think it's nonsense. They try and say, well, there's no, fear is just this nonsensical thing. Fear is instinctual. Holding on to that and allowing the stress and anxiety to take a hold of you, that's something you can control. That's what you can change. Fear is allowed, ladies and gentlemen. It's okay to be scared once in a while. That's normal. That's our human reaction. That's part of our survival modus operandi, right? That's how we make sure that we're still around as a species, is fear. How we react to that and what we hold on to will dictate how much stress you have in your life. I still get, I've done, if you go on the YouTube channel now, there's, 240 something videos on there, right? And that doesn't include all of these that I've done where maybe we just didn't record. I've spoken on dozens of stages. I've done masterminds. I've done all of these different things. There's still days where I get a little bit nervous, depending on who I'm going to be talking to, depending on what the topic is. There's nerves there. There's a little bit of fear. How I deal with that and what I do is, what is going to inevitably end up, as far as how my body deals with stress. So if there's a little bit of stress there, what do? I go, look, there's a practical solution. This is something that has been done, you've done. All you need to do is go out and do it anyway, right? And a lot of times the stress that you feel in life is, the simplest answer is just get it done. Just do it. There's no reason to delay. And oftentimes the delay is what's causing the influx of even higher anxiety. So just need it. So yeah, Carrie, Canada and what Trudeau, but I'm not diving too much into politics. I think it's all BS. Richard saying, I was worried whether or not I would still have a business when the pandemic hit. I asked myself whether or not me worrying about it's going to change it. And if not, then what's the point in worrying? Because there's things that you can't control. Absolutely. So there's up in Wayne Dyer's a classic called Your Erroneous Zones. Yeah, I'd like to take a look, or F everything and run. Yeah, that's part of it. So let's see. Ryan, we got so many people chiming in. Here's how I deal with stress. Amor fati is a Latin phrase that may be translated as love of fate or love of one's fate. It's used to describe an attitude in which one sees everything that happens in one's life, including suffering and loss, as good or at the very least necessary. You know, what is that saying? Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. The future is not ours to see. Que sera, sera. I'm not singing. You guys don't want to hear that. But you've probably heard that. Suppression is toxic and kills other things like love. Okay, so dealing with stress, guys, and this is where a lot of, and there's a ton of messages. Go ahead and look through that, guys. So try to release the worry of those in the second and third groups. I love this. Just try and release it. Just whoosha. Oh, awesome. Stress is gone. Just get over it. Relax. Don't worry about it. You don't have any control over it. Don't get stressed about that. You know, maybe you're one of the people that is freaking out over the politics. Maybe it's a family member that every time you talk to them, oh my gosh, did you see this on CNN or MSNBC or on Fox or on this or on that? Give me a break. So first, again, self-awareness. Realize when it's causing you a problem. Are you taking on too much? Now, this first one here, this question, could you be taking on too much? Because I'm going to give you guys these slides. I would say that's rarely the problem, taking on too much. I think most of us are capable of a lot more than what we're doing. It's the manner in which we are doing it. So we're focused on a lot of the little things that keep us busy. And they keep us busy to keep us away from the important things, to keep us away from what's stressing us. And so we add more and more and more of these little busy items in order to keep us away from the big things, right? The saying of, eat the frog first thing in the morning. If you got something that's difficult to do, that's what you should be doing. That's typically what's going to cause you the most stress, and it may cause you stress throughout the day. And if you don't deal with it, everything else is going to suffer. I believe that that's what most of us deal with. Okay. It goes with the next one. Are there things you're doing which could be handed to someone else? Can you do things in a more leisurely way? To act on the answers to these questions, you may need to prioritize things. You may need to look at what you're doing and go, do I have to do this? Am I putting it off? Am I adding this in order to put off something else? Right? When you try and do all of it, and this holds true, especially for those of you that maybe have a little bit of codependence where you kind of feel like everybody relies on you for everything. Ladies, I mean, it's stereotypical, but it's true, right? There's a reason these stereotypes are there, but men get the honey-do list and then put it off a little bit. Honey, can you take out the trash? I will soon. And then the spouse comes along and says, fine, if you're not going to do it, then I'll just do it. And it's only been 30 seconds, right? Now, the reason I say that is because a lot of women have this, they're nurturing by nature. There's extra empathy. There's more love, typically, from women than men, right? And if someone wants to argue with me, that's fine. It's just personal experience. But what I see is a lot of times, if I look at people that I've worked with, so, looking at strategy sessions I do, other consulting that I do, say by and large, the people that are overworked and overstressed because there's too much on their plate are the majority are women. Okay. And a lot of it's because even in the 45 to 65, 70 plus range where the kids are out of the house, these moms still take on them. Well, I still have to do this and this and this for my son, for my daughter, for the grandkids, etc. Right? I'm taking care of, you're doing the laundry for your husband when he's more than capable of doing his own laundry. You're doing, right? There's all of these different things. And a lot of times you take on a little bit more to avoid some of the bigger things. Now, some of the bigger things are just dealing with ourselves. Men, we just put it aside and ignore it and don't do anything. Men like to do nothing. Men do everything that they can in their life in order to do nothing. We try and get some stuff done in order to sit down and just do nothing. Whereas women, when they see men doing nothing, they go, hey, why don't you do something? we should talk or do this or that. Meanwhile, in men's brains, we're trying to get rid of everything in order to do nothing. And we look at women and we say, why don't you want to do nothing? I'm perfectly fine doing nothing. I don't want to do something, right? Men will ignore the problems. Women will stack up additional things to do in order to avoid them. We're both avoiding, okay? And yes, I know I'm using stereotypes, but pay attention to what you're doing. Okay. Don't immediately say, well, I've just got too much on my plate. Look at what you may be able to kind of outsource to someone else. Okay. So here's some general triggers you guys can go through kind of on your own. It may be a stressful work environment, driving, travel, always fun, going on vacations, and then you need a vacation from the vacation. Genetics, anxiety could run in the family. Drugs, alcohol withdrawal from there could cause stress, side effects of medication, trauma, phobias, some chronic illnesses, chronic pain, other mental illnesses or depression, too much caffeine, right? If you're a coffee addict, that's something. I drink coffee, and then I also, when I work out, I'll do pre-workout and stuff. So every once in a while I cycle off all of it to work it out of my system, and it lowers stress in a big, big way. But one thing that's important to remember, though, is you can't eliminate all stress, because there's positive and there's negative, but the key is learning how to deal with it. And that comes from a positive behavioral response. That lowers the symptoms. This lowered symptoms improves the mood, and then you can turn to better thoughts. So you need to learn different ways of creating positive behavioral responses, your own little form of ABA therapy, applied behavioral therapy. Look at things that you can do. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys these slides. Look through it. Be active, take control, connect with people. All of these things have some me time, but challenge yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean cleaning, or exercising or taking control. And instead of saying, "Oh, I've got these problems, I can't do anything about it," it's this person, it's that person. Whereas just changing the conversation of how you deal with things can modify that level of stress that you feel. I'm going to give you guys these slides. I want you to look through it. I just want you to kind of think about where you're at and how you deal with stress. Guys leaving empty packages in the fridge after finishing the food, milk cartons, I do that all the time. Identify how you're currently dealing with stress, what causes it, what triggers it, the way that you approach it, right? Which of these three elements, is it something that can be solved with practical terms? Is it something that's just going to take time? And will be dealt with either over time with your direct or indirect involvement, or if it's something that you can't control at all. If it's something that you can't control at all, this is where especially some exercise, some breathing, some meditation, forcing yourself to think or do something else. Because if it's nothing you can control, then there's no single activity that you can do to lower that stress. If it's something that falls into that practical category, then there is something you can do. You can sit down, you can schedule time to do it right then. Oftentimes, if you're filling up your day with busy stuff, I caught myself, dealing with something I got to deal with, in coming days. I caught myself over the last few days dealing with busy things. So I just stopped myself. Last night, as much as I enjoy the gym, and I was just talking about it last night, I knew I needed to finish certain things, documents and this and that. I knew I needed to do it. I got myself dressed for the gym, put on my headphones, grabbed my jacket, grabbed my key card, walked out the doors, walking down the steps, starting to walk towards the vehicle. And I went, you need to go deal with this shit. Like, that's what you have to do, as opposed to allowing the stress. Because I would have felt the stress while I was working out. In the back of my mind, it wouldn't have let it get away. Yeah, absolutely, David. It's that hamster wheel. You've got to ignore the little stuff that keeps you busy. Pay attention. Look at yourself throughout, the week, with those moments when you're feeling stressed. And if you find yourself doing little things around the house where you're just kind of bouncing all over, it may not be the ADHD that I feel like I have sometimes. It may just be that moment that you're avoiding dealing with what needs to be dealt with. So I'm going to give you guys these slides. Think about how you deal with stress. Find ways to lessen the stress or to deal with it in a positive behavioral response. And then feel free to share inside the Skype chat group what you do to deal with stress in a positive way. We've had a couple of ideas in here. You've got breathing, you've got meditation. It could be prayer, it could be scripture, it could be singing. singing in the shower. Once I've dealt with what I need to, a hot shower is going to be fantastic. And I know the anxiety level, even once I've dealt with things over the next couple of days, is going to be, I'll deal with it and it'll be dealt with. My anxiety, like to get rid of that extra feeling that's there, I'm going to hit the gym and work it out until it's just gone. Find out what you need to do for yourself and make that happen. And yeah, dancing is absolutely fantastic. Have yourself a dance party. Anyway, we will be back tomorrow. We're going to have a couple of you guys sharing your 5 minutes tomorrow as well. I look forward to talking with you guys. I appreciate you always being here.
Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenix.